I think, one of the phrases that's been so overused in the last 4 or 5 years, more so, is that of brand identity. Everybody talks about what's the DNA of the brand. You hear it so much, it's kind of sickening because it doesn't mean anything anymore. What it used to mean, though, was that you have the bottom line of what you stand for is so important because you can translate that into any product. You can translate it into clothing, shoes, homeware, toothbrushes, anything you want. If you really stand for something, that's translatable into any area of design. That's a fantastic thing to have. And if you have consistency in that, in other words, if everything you do sends out that message, and that's really well defined from very early on in your career, you can have a great deal of however you measure success, you can have a great deal of success because you can translate that into different products. And I do value that. I think that's a wonderful trait to have for any designer. The other side to that is I was talking to this guy called Malcolm McLaren about a month and a half ago. I don't know if any of you know who Malcolm McLaren is. Okay, yeah, who knows who Vivienne Westwood is? Okay, Malcolm and Vivienne started these stores in London in the early 70s. And Malcolm created bondage trousers, all those punk rock t-shirts, the Sex Pistols and all of that. So if you know Vivienne Westwood, you know Malcolm McLaren. I asked Malcolm why every shop he and Vivienne had in the early 70s, and they had like 5 or 6 shops starting from Let It Rock, Too Fast to Live, Too Young to Die, Sex, Seditionaries, World's End. Each time they opened a shop, it was completely different to the last shop. And he said, I never wanted to be a haberdasher. I don't want to sell clothes. That's mundane, that's boring. I want to make art, and the shop is my art. So each time I completely reinvent, and I completely do something different and opposite to what I've done before. And I actually thought, that's brilliant, because in this day and age when me and everyone else is saying, brand identity, it's about consistency, this guy is saying, oh, you should do the opposite of that. You shouldn't do the same thing over and over again, because that's kind of boring, it's really pedestrian. And it really made me think, kind of the light bulb went off in my head. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, Malcolm's right, because that reinvention is so important. Michelle mentioned it earlier, in design and in any aspect, really, to keep reinventing keeps everything fresh. But at the bottom line, underneath that reinvention, if you've got that kind of cornerstone that is the building block that you build everything else on in your career, then you'll have a very strong foundation and you'll always be able to come back to it. And you'll have that freshness of reinvention, but you'll have the solid base to build on. And I really do think that's a very key thing within design, within merchandising, within marketing, within any area of creativity.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it's critical that everyone have a really strong vision of who you are and what you create, so that if you're a creative person, you have a million ideas in your head. You could think of the most incredible dress or suit, but if it doesn't fit the definition that you've given, the vision that you've created for who you are and what you're going to make, you have to throw it out. You have to be so focused on who you are and what you're going to be. And it comes down to what we talk about all the time in the business of fashion, because at the end of the day, this is a business. Everybody at this table is in the business of selling clothes or housewares, but it is a business. And you need to be able to explain your vision and show a really clear vision to whoever is out there that's going to try to sell your clothes or buy your clothes. And then you can reinvent yourself, because any way that you reinvent yourself, you throw it up against this vision, and it's a new way of translating your vision, a new way of expressing the same idea but in a fresh way. I talk about all the time the elevator pitch. It's basically, if you get into an elevator at a top floor with someone really that you want to impress, whether it's a buyer or someone who has a lot of money to invest in your company, you have until you get to the ground floor to very quickly and succinctly give them an understanding of who you are and what your vision is. So constantly, you should have this 1 or 2 sentences in the back of your mind that describes exactly who you are and what you're doing. You should be able to throw that out to anyone quickly, and then they know who you are and what your line looks like. And Simon did ask the question of then what do you do once you have this vision, people are giving you feedback, and you meet with a buyer and you have this beautiful, you know, collection that you created that's all about dresses, and the buyer says to you, well, we really want shirts. So can you make shirts? Because we really want shirts, and we're only going to buy your dresses if you make us some shirts. Well, again, the buyer knows, you know, we're all here to sell clothes. You have to decide, can I make shirts to make the buyer happy that hopefully will sell, but they still have to be part of my vision. They have to be part of, again, this collection, this vision that I've created. If sequins are, you know, what she wants because that's what's in fashion and that's not who you are, then you have to say, no, it's not what I do, it doesn't fit my vision. But you have to listen to people, and you have to take the feedback and then edit it against this really strong vision that you have for yourself.
Those were some great answers.